Hi everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Taco Tuesday. Today it's steak tacos. It's all about steak tacos and the kind of meat that you could find if you went to a Mexican grocery store, because I know a lot of you have access to a grocery store in a Mexican neighborhood that's going to have all different kinds of cuts. So we're going to go through that, but just rest assured, if you're not going to go to a Mexican grocery store, you can buy these same cuts in your regular grocery store as well. So for making a classic steak taco that's done on a griddle, or a la plancha, as they would say in Mexico, especially the street vendors that have the great big griddles. These are the kinds of thin cut meat that you're going to want. So we've got three different choices in front of you here. I'm going to start over here on your left-hand side. This is an inside round. You can see that on the tag. It's called Pulpa Negra in our local market here. You can see it's a very thin cut, and you can see it's not marbled very much. Let's go over to this next side here. This is sandwich steak, Bola de res. This is also a cut from the round. You can see that they're very similar in size and shape. These two first ones that we have here, not a lot of marbling. It's not going to be the richest in beef flavor, but it's also going to be something you can cook in just an instant. Sandwich steak, those are the operative words there on that label, because when you go into a non-Mexican grocery store, that's what you're going to want to look for, is sandwich steak. Now over here, this is the one that I like the most. This is the Diesmillo. That word can refer to different things, but in our Mexican markets here in Chicago, it tends to be from the chuck. So Diesmillo would be like a thin cut chuck steak. Now most of you might know chuck as a braising cut, one that's only good if you braise it. But I always say, because it's such a beefy flavored cut, that you could easily use it if you cut it really thin for making great and beefy flavored steak tacos. We're going to serve the steak tacos with what are called CHILES TORREADOS. So TORREADOS, it comes from that word toro, bull. So these are like bullish kind of serrano chilies, super hot. Those of you that love hot, spicy food, you're gonna love this. So CHILES TORREADOS, the first thing that you're gonna do with the serrano chilies, and that's what they're typically made from, is to make them really mad. And the way you make them really mad is to put your palm on it and just roll them back and forth. This will release all of the capsaicin on the inside of them, meaning that they're going to be even extra hot. And then starting at the top here, right below the stem end, you'll cut down, and then you'll cut on the other side here, roll it over a quarter of a turn and cut it so that you've got four little pieces there of very fiery, very mad chiles toreados. Okay, so this is going to go into a hot pan. I like to work in cast iron, so that's what we've got going here. And I want it to be sort of a medium-high temperature. And I'm going to take a little bit of fresh rendered pork lard. You can do this in oil if you want to, but I'm going to use fresh rendered pork lard because I think it makes the best chiles toreados. And we will slide these very mad serrano chilies in that pan, and I'm going to add some onion to it at the same time so that cooks right along with it and will sort of caramelize. I'm going to turn my temperature up just a little bit. I will tell you, I can already feel it in my throat. So you want to have a good exhaust fan on or a window open, and hopefully the house will not be filled with lots and lots of people. I have literally cleared out rooms teaching how to make chiles toreados. So we're going to come back here in a minute once I get my voice back. And after these have all been charred together, I say charred, but we want a deep, deep golden brown color on them, and we want those chiles to be soft. Okay, so we're about back to normal over here after all of that capsaicin has been released from the chiles toreados, those serrano chilies. I'm sprinkling on a little bit of lime juice. I'm going to want to season it now with a bit of salt as well. I'm staying way back over here just so that I don't breathe in those fumes from it. Okay, next thing is to cook the beef. That will just take a second. I'm going to use a little bit of our fresh rendered pork lard here. I have this cast iron griddle hot, like really hot, and I'm just going to give it just a little bit of the fat on there. Again, you could just use oil for this if you want to. And then I'm going to take the Diesmillo, which is the flavor that I like the best, lay it on there. I'm just trying to sear it, and that's why we need a really hot griddle. I like these kinds of griddles that have that cover 2 burners, and you know that your cast iron will hold the heat for a long time and disperse it really beautifully. That's one of the things I like about working. I'm turning the peppers off now. Okay, so that one goes off. So I salted it on the top here. I'm going to salt it again when I flip them over. The meat should really be at about 1/8 of an inch thick. That's kind of what you're looking for. As with all meat that you're cooking on a hot surface, whether it's on a hot griddle like I'm doing right now, or it's on a grill grate, you want to leave it. Don't mess with it. Let it get crusty and colored before you flip it over. All meat will stick to the surface of wherever you put it, hot or not, for the first few seconds or minute or so. And if you start messing with it, you're going to rip the meat. So now I'm at a place where I think I can look at it and see what it looks like. I've left it on there for about a minute now. Look at it on the side here where it wasn't quite so hot. It's stuck a little bit, so I'm going to pull that off and then flip that over. You see the brown on there? That's what I'm looking for. This one was not on the side, so it didn't stick at all. And then that's kind of as much as I really want to cook it. I'm going to let it sit for another 15 seconds or so, just to ensure that we get a little bit more flavor that comes from that browning, that what the scientists call the Maillard reaction on this. Remember I said I was going to sprinkle a little bit of salt over this side, and I'm going to take it off now. I want it to have just a tiny bit of pink left in the middle, but this is a cut of steak that you can cook very well done. I'm going to cut it into 3 about 2-inch width strips here, and then cut those crosswise at about between 1/2 and 1/4. I'll tell you, it smells really good in here between the roasted serranos with the caramelized onions and this beautifully seared meat. We'll need a couple of hot tortillas here. Wow. Just opening up the container of tortillas. These are some that we've made here in the restaurant from our heirloom corn masa that gets delivered to us every day. So we'll put the pieces of meat on there. I think once you cut beef like this, it's best to sprinkle it with a little bit of salt. Now I'm going to grab some of our caramelized onions and 1 serrano chili for each of the tacos. This is a dish for your friends that like spicy food, let's just say. And then I'm going to put a spoonful of roasted tomatillo salsa. You can buy it or make it. And you'll probably want a little bit additional lime on this, so I'm going to sprinkle on a little bit of lime over the top of it. Now, if that doesn't make your mouth water, all you carnivores out there, nothing will. Yeah, it's spicy, but man, is it good.